Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, a host, and this is a podcast where I talk to spooky friends about spooky things. And today's episode, I am talking about the spooky internet. I am talking about haunted internet legends, creepypastas, odd websites from the haunted days of the web. And joining me to talk about all of these topics is Todd Keisling, who wrote a novella called Scanlines, and I published Scanlines through my small press, Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. And today, May 11th, is the publication day of the book of Scanlines. So you can go buy it at the places you buy books. You buy it at perpetualpublishing.com. You get it at IndieBound, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, all the cool places. Go buy it. Scanlines by Todd Keisling. It is a fairly bleak coming-of-age novella about a fictionalized version of the Bud Weil suicide video from the 90s. Or maybe that was the 80s. I think it was the 80s, actually. And basically, if someone stumbles across this video and watches it, they'll suddenly haunted with the need to also commit suicide. And in Scanlines, three teenagers hoping to find internet pornography accidentally watched this suicide video instead, and things get messed up. We talk about the book in this episode along with a bunch of other really graphic internet things. Like, I don't say this often on this podcast and these intros, but just a heads up, the book itself, Scanlines, huge content warning for suicide. And this episode of, what show is this? Ghoulish! Big content warning for suicide, discussions of the most disgusting internet memes you could possibly imagine. We go into detail about, like, what goatsy is or what lemon pelty is. So if you don't know what those mean, well, we will tell you in the episode. Do not Google them unless you will insane. I don't know. You can Google them if you want, I guess. There's no skin off my back. What else? Other news. This is a bit of a awful transition, but speaking of goatsy, I do have to real quick let you, the listener, know some more news that's going on in my spooky life. Listeners to previous episodes will know I wrote a movie based on my novella, We Need to Do Something, and it was filmed last October, and it's going to be premiering at the Tribeca Film Fest in June. That's old news. What is new news is something that was announced today on Tuesday. IFC Midnight will be putting the movie out. They bought the North American rights. They will be releasing it in theaters and VOD, so like paid video on demand. So like you can rent it on iTunes and Amazon and those places. It will come out theaters and VOD simultaneously on Labor Day weekend. So Friday, September 3rd. 2021. It's coming out. If you can't see the premiere at Tribeca, no sweat, folks. It's coming out just a few months after that in September. Pretty cool. IFC Midnight is... I'm a fan of them. I mean, they put out good movies. They did the Babadook. They did the Autopsy of Jane Doe. They did the Kill List. A new movie they did recently I was a huge fan of, Come True, which was about like spooky dream studies and stuff like that. I love that movie. I love a lot of the movies they put out, and I am thrilled that IFC Midnight is going to be putting out We Need to Do Something. So, more news on that when I have it. And until then, let's listen to my lengthy conversation about the spooky internet with Todd Keisling in the celebration of his book, Scanlines, out right now. What is the most disturbing thing you've ever seen on the internet?
Most disturbing? Oh
Yeah.
God. Anything that like seeps out of 4chan or any of the Chan sites onto Reddit, because I usually just like doom scroll Reddit every day to procrastinate. Uh, I've seen. Now this is going back like 20 years. So like right after 9/11 happened, I remember all the footage from 9/11 was pretty disturbing. After the war in Afghanistan started, I remember seeing like the beheading videos and shit. Um, that was messed up. And
Yeah.
of course, going back even further, there's the Bud Dwyer thing.
Yeah, we will get into
Yeah,
Bud's Wild, definitely. But with 9/11, I remember those the beheading videos that followed. But also, I recall an audio recording of a phone call. I think of a man made to his wife. The guy was in the building, and he was like, it was basically his goodbye message, saying how much he loved his wife, and then it just cuts
yeah.
off.
So some of the phone calls that were from people in the building are haunting. Like
Yeah,
someone trying to is on with 911 trying to get someone or alert someone that's, they didn't know that a plane had hit. They just knew that something had exploded.
yeah.
And then you just hear basically the floor collapsing and then it cuts off to silence. That's pretty messed up. Um, but I think the call that you're referencing was actually on one of the flights that was
Oh,
hijacked. I
that's
think it's the one.
possible.
I forget the flight number, but it was the one that they brought down here in Pennsylvania. They basically allowed all the passengers to make calls to their loved ones to say goodbye, and it was a guy basically leaving a message for his wife. Everybody knows where they were that day and everything, and I guess that really brings home the human side of it all. Like it's one thing to just watch stuff happen on TV, but then to actually hear people and hearing their lives cut short. It's the silence for me that gets to me most, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. I think the internet has it's a haven for collections of like 9/11 phone calls, and I didn't do any like deep research into the 9/11 phone call stuff for this podcast, but I've
Mhm.
listened to them a lot in the past. I think there was like a long like a 3 episode series on last podcast on the left.
Yeah.
Those are rough to listen to, and I don't I don't quite understand like the need to listen to those exactly. Like I could picture them like myself as a child, like a teenager, going, "Yeah, let's listen to some shit." But like as a grown man, I just why would you even want to go down that slope?
I it's great. That's a great question. I listened to the Jonestown suicide tape when I was kind of doing research for my novel Devil's Creek. And I remember waking up one Saturday morning and uh, one Saturday morning and my wife was still asleep. It was early. I'm having a cup of coffee and I'm like, okay, let's try to get some work done. So I look up this Jonestown documentary. It was on YouTube and I ended up watching that. And I don't recommend anyone watch that first thing in the morning on a weekend because it will absolutely fucking ruin your Saturday.
I didn't know that they had like is it just audio recording of
It's
the
just
yeah.
it's just an audio recording because Jim Jones was insane, and he recorded all sorts of shit. He was so paranoid, and you hear him, obviously talking to them. He sounds like a rational man until you actually listen to what he's saying.
Yeah.
And you hear some of the people stand up and say, hold on, this isn't right. This is not what we came down here to Ghana to do. And they get shouted down by the others. And I feel like that's kind of chillingly apropos for the times we live in right now.
Yeah.
But the most disturbing thing is how, you hear them giving it to children, and the flavor aid with the cyanide, and I forget how long it is. It's like maybe 20 minutes or something. I don't know.
You listened to the whole thing?
I did.
Yeah. Do you think you would have if you weren't writing this book?
No. I don't go seek that out unless I'm trying to understand something. I don't actively, with the exception of the Bud Dwyer thing, which, kind of popped up. A lot of that stuff, I can't.
Were you always this way, or like would you say when you were younger, or did you kind of seek it out like some teenagers do?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, I grew up in the age of rotten.com, man. And that shit on that site you couldn't unsee, and it was just, I mean, the internet is a little bit more policed now than it was back then in its Wild West days.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about rotten.com for those listening, because I don't think it's around now. No. If it is, nobody goes to it because websites don't exist now. It's just social media sites.
Yeah, like rotten.com was this site. It lived up to its name. Like they had autopsy photos, they had videos of murders, they had really sick sexual shit.
Mm-hmm.
The JFK autopsy photos, Marilyn Monroe's autopsy photos.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I mean, it was just like a hodgepodge of stuff that you could not just seek out by Googling, because Google wasn't, there were multiple options besides Google, like Coast.
He couldn't ask Jeeves, like, hey, Jeeves, can I see JFK dead?
Yeah, at Jeeves, show me some snuff movies.
Imagine that's why Jeeves isn't around now. He saw too much. He had to quit.
Yeah.
I recall, like, when I was younger, going over to my friend's house, and I think I talked about this in the intro to Scanlines, but like going into his basement and just kind of like playing a game of who's gonna chicken out Phil, sitting side by side, scrolling down rotten.com and just looking at the most fucked up stuff.
There was another site that kind of rivaled Rotten, and I can't remember the name.
I know there was a website that I think it focused mostly on videos, and it was called steakandcheese.com.
That sounds familiar. There was that, and there was also like E-Bombs World. I think that might have come a few years later.
Yeah, E-Bombs. I don't think it focused like specifically on shock stuff, but I know it had it. Yeah. Like I know they had a lot of like prank phone call stuff.
Sorry.
For those wondering why I'm laughing, we were doing this on Zoom, and a cat just walked in front of Todd.
She likes to show her ass to people on Zoom, so she's like, she knows she's pretty.
The moment we bring up rotten.com, we see an ass. When did do you know when Goatsy surfaced?
God, I don't remember hearing about Goatsy until college. So I was in college from 2001 to 2005.
Yeah.
And I don't recall seeing Goatsy per se. I do remember Lemon Party.
Oh, yeah. Lemon Party's a good one. I have never said that sentence out loud.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
It was a great episode of that show, Filthy Rock, with Tina Fey. Her name is Liz Lemon, and there was some gag that I've always thought was great. Well, she was gonna have like a birthday party, and someone was like, "You gonna go to that lemon party tonight?" And it's the greatest joke that maybe 5% of the viewership understood.
Oh man. Lemon Party. I remember seeing Lemon Party before Goatsy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just gonna make you describe awful things tonight, Todd. Do you want
Oh,
to
God.
explain what Lemon Feldy is to the audience?
Okay, so Lemon Party, I forget if it was like a .org or a .com. I want to say it was an org,
Sounds right.
which makes it even more hilarious because it's definitely an organization photo that's happening. It's basically you go to Lemon Party, and I don't condone anyone do this. That's why I'm telling you what it is. It's basically a bunch of old men all engaging in an orgy. Just all old men, wrinkly, flabby old men performing fellatio on each other. And if you don't know what it is and you go, it'll shock the hell out of you.
It has an innocent enough name that you can trick lots of people into going to that, and like a Blue Waffle was another one you can trick someone into going to.
I've actually never gone to Blue Waffle. My friend Eric tried to get me to go, and I just absolutely refused because that was when it kind of went viral online and everybody was talking about it. Like, nope.
I feel like we would sell a lot of books right now if you Googled it right now.
Fucking Googling Blue Waffle.
I tried. You know what's funny is I think I've gotten Bob Pastorella to Google that when I was on his podcast
that's amazing.
I may be wrong, but I think it was him. I've gotten somebody. It sounds like it's something I could have gotten Bob to do. He's really gullible, but I love him.
Sorry, Bob. Love you, man. That's hilarious.
Bob is someone who is really interested, like in the Bud Dwyer mythos. Nope, that can't be the right word. But anyway, he's written a really good short story that I published in an anthology called Lost Films, actually, about that tape. So nice. you and Bob are like the only two that I know of who have like incorporated that video and suicide in the fiction. Do you know anything else?
Do I know anything else? Like,
oh, I mean, like, do you know any other instances of that like appealing in fiction, books or movies or otherwise?
I mean, there's obviously, the song "Hey Man, Nice Shot" by Filter.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, I think.
Yeah. It's one of the few songs with a compliment as a title too. Yeah. Hey man.
I thought about that.
Hey man, nice shot.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. It's pretty polite.
Could have called it a fantastic shot. I mean, I'm just saying.
I mean, it was a nice shot, but it wasn't a great shot. Okay.
No,
I've seen better shots than that, Bud. Like Bud Dwyer's passive aggressive mother-in-law. I've seen better shots.
Oh man.
But yeah, he Goatsy. Goatsy, I mean, is that still like a commonly known thing at this point?
I don't think so. Like, maybe I'll ask my stepson when I see him that, hey, do you know what Goatsy is?
How old is he?
And then just no explanation. I'll just ask him, do you know what Goatsy is?
Yeah.
And see what his response is. My guess is he doesn't. I noticed that a lot of, I mean, he just turned 18 and, he's pretty, like, he and his girlfriend are pretty in the know about all the crazy internet stuff that the kids are doing these days. But, I guess I've aged out of that.
What are they doing nowadays?
It's like, no Facebook, that sort of thing. It's like more like Snapchat or Instagram, or not even Instagram really.
Is Instagram down now? Is that done?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we're still using it to promote stuff. So.
Is it doing anything though? Should we get on Snapchat and do some Goatsy stuff?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
That's something I never thought I'd be asked, Max. You want to get on Snapchat and do some Goatsy stuff?
And on this podcast, I ask the tough questions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the tough questions. Just, I'll give you the answer, and the answer is no.
When I interview somebody, I dig deep, and I pull the topics wide open, and I get right in there, man.
Oh God, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, do I need to explain Goatsy to people?
I mean, you don't need to, but yeah, you should.
Well, I've already done Lemon Party. I feel like it's it's downhill from here.
Yeah.
There's your soundbite. I've already done Lemon Party. Basically, Goatsy. It was like goat se.cx,
Mm-hmm.
and I forget what country that is, but it's basically a photo of this person bent over, spreading their ass, and it's like they're basically spreading their rectum wide open, so you can like see really deep in there.
Yeah.
And it's just there's no explanation, nothing. It gives you nothing but that photo, and that's it. And it's kind of like I almost feel like those sort of sites were the precursor to the Rickroll.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you see that in forums, there'd be this, somebody who asks a question, like, I think the answer's here, and it's like a hyperlink. You click on it, and there's, some guy's asshole.
Yep. That explains a lot of the early internet days. You click on something and bam, some guy's asshole's now looking at you. In a way, Goatsy is a great lesson for those who want to write books. Stick with me.
Okay.
Because there's no further explanation besides the image. Goatsy is a piece of entertainment. I'll go as far as saying that understands how much it needs to give you. It gives you the image, and then it's done. That's all you need. You don't always need to hit the viewer with exposition.
Yeah, and it leaves you just enough to make an impression, and allow the viewer to fill in the blanks or fill in anything else for that matter. I don't know.
One that was ass related that really fucked me up when I was younger. I forget when this was. It was a video of a man sticking a glass drill up his rectum, and then it broke. And then we were given the gift of watching him discard the bloody shards. Yeah.
I regret everything now.
Oh.
This
is
up. Ow.
I think we would sell a lot of copies of Scanlines if you will to imitate that right now. No,
I'm not going to do that.
That's okay. I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah. Thanks for understanding.
This
author has limits, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, this author is a coward. This is usually a podcast where folks go and they listen to some good family fun. And I don't know, I guess this is the ultimate decline of Ghoulish.
I never claimed to be family friendly anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
okay.
It's just how it is, man. I'm sorry to be the decline of your podcast.
It's a good thing to brag about in bios, though. Todd.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I single-handedly brought down the Ghoulish podcast. Max Booth won't talk to me anymore.
Let's see, I have a list of things I wanted to talk about, so let me cross off Goatsy and Glass Ass. What are some creepy internet urban legends you want to talk about?
Okay, so I had mentioned to you on Twitter about the haunted eBay painting, and I don't know how many people, I just turned 38. I don't know how many people, outside of my age group who remember that, and it was also kind of niche at the time anyway. I have information about it. So I remember being at my friend Danny's house. Yes, the same Danny that is in Scanlines. Because usually whenever we got up to no good, we were always at Danny's house for some reason. He was telling me about this haunted eBay painting he had heard about. And I'm like, he's like, have you heard about this? I'm like, no. So he pulled it out. He pulled up the eBay listing because it was still there. I mean, I don't think it's there anymore. Yeah, February 2nd, 2000 is when a user listed a painting. The artist's name is Bill Stoneham. The painting is called The Hands Resist Him. And it creeped me out to begin with because I got this weird fear of like disembodied hands. Like any hand like reaching out from somewhere that you can't see what it's attached to kind of freaks me the fuck out. Um, so the painting is a depiction of this child standing in front of like a glass door, glass window, and there's a robotic little girl standing next to him, and she's got what looks like a gun of some sort, like a almost like a laser gun or something. And behind him, through the glass, you see all these hands reaching out of the darkness toward them. And it's creepy, eerie. I would say is a better word. It's eerie looking painting, and so this is from the eBay listing. I'll read it. Warning: do not bid on this painting if you are susceptible to stress-related disease, faint of heart, or are unfamiliar with supernatural events. By bidding on this painting, you agree to release the owners of all liability in relation to the sale or any events happening after the sale that might be contributed to this painting. This painting may or may not possess supernatural powers that could impact or change your life. However, by bidding, you agree to exclusively bid on the value of the artwork with disregard to the last two photos featured in this auction and hold the owners harmless in regard to them and their impact expressed or implied. I'll come back to those other two photos in a second. Now that we got this out of the way, one question to you eBayers. We want our house to be blessed after the painting is gone. Does anybody know who is qualified to do that? The size of the painting is 24 by 36, so it is rather large, as I have had several questions. Here are the following answers. There was no odor left behind in the room. There were no voices or the smell of gunpowder, no food prints or strange fluids on the wall. To deter questions in this direction, there are no ghosts in this world, no supernatural powers. This is just a painting, and most of these things have an explanation. In this case, probably a fluke light effect. I encourage you to bid on the artwork and consider the last two photographs as pure entertainment, and please do not take them into consideration when bidding. As we think it is a good idea to bless any house, we still welcome input into that procedure. So, what are the other two images? They go on to say, when we received this painting, we thought it was a really good art. Their words, not mine. A, quote, picker had found it abandoned behind an old brewery. At the time, we wondered a little why a seemingly perfectly fine painting would be discarded like that. Today, we don't. One morning, our 4.5-year-old daughter claimed that the children in the picture were fighting and coming into the bedroom during the night. Now, I don't believe in UFOs or elves being alive, but my husband was alarmed. To my amusement, he set up a motion-triggered camera for the nights. After 3 nights, there were pictures. The last 2 pictures shown are from that stakeout. After seeing the boy seemingly exiting the painting under threat, we decided the painting has to go. Please judge for yourself. Before you do, please read, our disclaimer. So they don't actually have pictures on. This is from the knowyourmeme.com. They don't actually have those photos, those motion capture photos and stuff on the site, but there are some videos that they link to where people talk about them, kind of like how we are right now. And despite the the owner going on to say that they don't think that this is really haunted or anything, this got circulated. This was like one of those chain emails that you get, your mom sends you, and it sold for like $1,000.
Yeah.
And,
While you were talking, I had looked up the photo, the painting, and I recognized it immediately, but I don't think I ever knew the background of it. So I definitely encourage anyone listening to this to Google the name, which was The Hands That Resist Him.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah. It's I kind of love it. Like, I wish I owned that painting.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it's a cool painting, but it is kind of eerie. And
Oh,
I know
definitely.
Stoneham, the artist, he was interviewed not long after this thing went viral, and he explained like what the symbolism it means. And the kid, the little boy, is actually him as a child.
Yikes.
And so he like the it says here the painting was a recreation of a family photo of him and a neighborhood girl with added Jungian and metaphysic symbolism, where the door represents a gate to possibilities and the hands represent other lives.
Okay. I mean, if
I
that's
know
what you
it's
want to say. I mean, I think he found that from some fucking swamp created by a witch. But I mean, he needs some type of reasonable explanation for like newspapers, I guess.
yeah. I mean, I've found myself just looking at it, the whole, even now,
Yeah.
and it it kind of creeps me out. And granted, as I said before, disembodied hands freak me out, and this is full of them.
It's also one of those paintings for like the more you look at it, the more you notice.
Yeah, you notice other little details.
Because the robotic kid next to him, I didn't even realize when I first looked at it that it wasn't an actual child, a human child. It took me a moment for that to register in my brain, and that was quite
Oh,
unsettling.
now that I've zoomed in on it, it's actually not like a ray gun she's holding. It looks more like
It's a battery, I think.
yeah, canister of some kind. I don't know.
Yeah.
She looks so sad.
That's how everybody listening to this podcast looks right now.
Yeah,
They regret a lot of things.
maybe she's sad because the young artist there is being an asshole and won't put the battery in.
Maybe.
Her existing battery's running down.
You mentioned it was kind of like a chain level, and
Yeah.
those have kind of gone away too, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any correlation, but I think that the chain letter thing kind of
Yeah.
died out as the 419 scams picked up.
I don't know what that is.
The Nigerian 419 scams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever like paid much attention to what people call them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Like I haven't seen a chain email in. I can't remember the last time. That is not an invitation for people to forward me fucking chain letter email.
Be a great book of just chain letters. No, it wouldn't.
Thought
It'd be
about
awful. Oh. I do have an example to talk about of a spooky chain little, and
Okay.
that is of the clown statue. You know about that?
Oh yeah, the babysitter.
Yeah.
I forget exactly how it goes, but it's like the babysitter ends up calling the parents to check in, or the parents call to check in, and the babysitter says something like the kids are kind of creeped out by the clown statue in their bedroom. Do you
Yeah.
mind if I cover it up or something? And the parents immediately tell her to get the kids, call the police, get out of the house because they don't have a clown statue in the bedroom.
I like that. That is like the parents' first reaction, and not like, "Are you high right now?"
Like what's funnier, my favorite rendition of that creepy legend is the Soviet Russia version.
What's that one?
Basically, it's not a statue of a clown, it's a statue of Lenin.
Okay.
And what happens is something like basically the secret police come, they call the police, the secret police come and arrest the parents because they aren't proudly displaying their statue of Lenin. And they don't, well, no, correction. They actually don't have a statue of Lenin. So they're arrested, and it ends with something like "such is life in Soviet Russia." I butchered that, I know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the clown one now. I found like the transcript. And I love the last line, which is how almost all of these ended. If you don't repost this within 5 minutes, the clown will be standing next to your bed at 3 a.m. with a knife in his hand. I just love how specific that is. Why 3 a.m.? And also, who's
Yeah.
keeping? I love the logic of all these chain letters too, because it implies computers might be haunted somehow. Because otherwise, who is keeping tabs on all of these different emails?
Yeah, like who's gonna know that I, didn't forward this to 15 of my friends?
And I'm positive the majority of these people who did like send it on will just like, this is the peak of comedy. I'm gonna make my friends laugh so much. But I also have to wonder that at least some of these people thought it was legit.
Oh yeah, of course. I
Yeah.
remember my mom responding to an actual chain letter that we got in the mail, like back in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was something like, it was supposedly like some psychic had sent it out, and if you passed it on, you'd receive good fortune or whatever. I don't fucking know.
Did she?
Yeah, she sent it out to other people.
Fuck yeah. That's awesome.
I mean,
I
did she get?
think we should bring like those back like through physical mail. I meant to look this one up, but I did not have time. I ran out of time. So maybe you might know something about it. If not, we can just skip this one. It is a fake video game called, I believe, Polybius.
Oh,
Polybius.
Polybius. Yeah,
Polybius. Tell me
yeah.
about this.
That's a well-known one, man. That's been circulating for a long time.
I only know about Goatsy. Okay,
Okay, oh, fine.
that's all I know about Goatsy.
Like Polybius was like this mysterious arcade cabinet, and I forget what it was like. I want to say it was something like Crystal Castles or something.
Mhm.
A lot of flashing colors, but the idea was that it could do two different types of graphic display simultaneously. Um, I don't remember if it was Last Podcast on the left or Astonishing Legends that did an episode about it, but it might have been Astonishing Legends. Um, Pretty interesting for those who want to know a little bit more about it. But the gist is that this arcade machine appeared in an arcade in like the very early 80s, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, maybe Oregon or Washington, and people started getting sick from playing it. They would complain of like headaches, dizziness, making them sick to their stomach. And there were like men in black suits who would come and like collect data from it. And eventually it vanished. So it's kind of I think it was it's kind of become like another part of obscure pop culture. Like
Yeah.
it appears in a Simpsons episode briefly. I think it was in Wreck It Ralph. I could be wrong. And there actually was a game by the same name that was released to kind of imitate what the graphics were supposed to look like and stuff. The
I'm
Nine Inch Nails video for
less than.
Less Than, yeah,
Yeah.
had someone playing it.
I'm surprised. Like this seems like a good like inspiration for like a movie. It seems like it should have been a movie by now. The Polybius movie.
There was a movie that came out on Shudder. Was it Kill Screen or something else? It was kind of like a Polybius like arcade machine that this guy was trying to repair or something.
I am looking it up. Could it have been called a Sequence? Game
That
of
Sequence
Death?
Break, yeah.
Okay.
Sequence Break. Okay. Kill
Great.
Screen was a story I listened to on Pseudopod a million years ago about a haunted video game.
Yeah. What do you know about Slender Man? Like, do you know like the background and all that? Because I have not looked it up in a long time.
I don't know the origins of Slender Man. I remember it seeing references to it on Reddit, like I want to say like 2011, 2012.
Yeah, I think it came on. I think it spawned on Something Awful, which was a website I didn't really visit that much.
something awful was kind of like 4chan
Mm.
before 4chan was a thing. Something awful was just like all sorts of crazy shit. And I know the Slender Man craze kind of died down after that those girls tried to kill her friend.
Yeah.
Which was a awful. Uh, but yeah, I honestly find Slender Man kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that the web series Marble Hornets was kind of like what helped propagate the Slender Man myth. I remember watching, God, like 10 episodes of that, and some of it's kind of boring, to be honest. But that was really where you'd see some really eerie shit. Like, I forget how it starts for the guy, but they're basically shooting a movie or something, and they go somewhere or see something they aren't supposed to see, and all of a sudden this man starts appearing in the distance,
Yeah.
outside this guy's house and stuff, and he's very tall, wears a suit, has no face, that sort of thing.
I think I know why you are not such a fan, because as you mentioned at the beginning of this episode, you too are really tall.
That's true.
Yeah.
I
Maybe it's
thought
like,
about dressing up as Slender Man one year for Halloween, but I didn't like the idea of wearing like a full on, like snug, like sock around my head.
it'd be suffocating. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
not like that. What did you dress up as instead?
I don't think I dressed up at all, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
disappointing.
It is disappointing.
It's
I'm
okay.
disappointed in myself.
Oh man. Anything else that you had like specifically you wanted to talk about? I have a few more things I could bring up if not.
Black-eyed children.
Yes.
And this is, you know, perfectly timed because last podcast just did an episode. Their most recent episode is about black-eyed children. I had never heard of black-eyed children until a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that the origins of black-eyed children go back to the late 90s.
Yeah, 97.
Yeah. And it's when you read the journalist, his name's Brian Bethel. When you read his account of what happened, it is eerie. Like basically he goes to this mall or something after hours to pay his internet bill. He was going to
Mm-hmm.
put a check in a drop box, and as he's writing out the check, these kids approach his car and basically are asking him for some money so they can see Mortal Kombat. But the theater that was there at the mall was like one at the dollar theater basically. So Mortal Kombat had been in theaters for months and months and months at that point. And the guy looked at the showtime for the movie and saw that the movie had already been going for like an hour. And he basically these kids were he looks up and realizes that their eyes are completely black. And they switch from asking him for money to see the movie to asking if he will give them a ride to their parents' house so they can get money from their parents. And this is like 10 o'clock at night. So what the hell are these kids doing? And they get really forceful with him. And I think it says here that they started shouting at him, "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay." And then
Yeah.
he did what any sane person would and dropped the car into gear, and he's out of there. But what's interesting is that like after he posted his account, like all these other stories started popping up with people saying that they've had similar experiences. So I have flirted with the idea of writing a story about black-eyed kids, but I haven't quite figured out how to work it because there's so much unknown about black-eyed kids, and the stories always vary a little bit.
I've actually written one story about black-eyed kids. It's called Scraps, and it was published in book called Ashes and Entropy, edited
Yeah.
by Ronald S. Wilson. Were you in that book too?
I was not, but I have a copy of it.
Oh well, shit! You could read my story right now on
I
the
totally
podcast.
could read your story, but I'm reading your other book right now.
That's okay. That's okay.
So there. Take that, Max.
Well, you know what? I end the podcast. But yeah, I love the idea of just like creepy kids walking up and making someone uncomfortable.
Like on the last podcast episode, they mention an occurrence where a black-eyed kid walked up to someone's house. They're standing on
Yeah.
the porch, like it's late at night. The kid's got an apple, and they're eating this apple, and the kid says, "Do you have any ketchup?"
I would fucking punch that kid. You want to catch up Phil an apple? No, you little demon.
The whole concept, they're just trying to pass as a human being.
Yeah.
And that's
crazy.
in itself is creepy. And there's also like a theory that they are involved with the Men in Black, of UFO fame, which is kind of hilarious. You think of like this little Men in Black family, guys in suits and creepy black-eyed children just kind of driving around.
Three black-eyed kids in a trench coat.
Yeah.
You brought up Last House on the Left, and let me ask you, like, are you like a huge fan of that show?
I was before they got really huge.
Okay.
So like my wife and I sometimes put their show on, like some of their like multi-episode shows when we're going on like road trips. I mean, they do, I will give them credit. They do their research. It's just they get kind of obnoxious sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. I haven't tried listening to them in a few years, but I always want to get into them because all of the topics are like, yeah, this is my jazz. This is my fucking jam. But man, I don't know. There's something about them that seems a bit maybe like too bro-y kind of. Like it feels a lot like frat boy humor sometimes.
Yeah, I know one of the guys is an actor and he kind of goes over the top, at least in their earlier stuff. He doesn't so much now.
Yeah.
But I also don't listen as often now.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to give him a fifth chance. I'm just assuming that I've given him that many chances already.
But also check out Astonishing Legends.
Okay.
The two guys, I mean, they tend to be long-winded, but they take everything straight. I mean, they approach it. Here's what they say happened. Here's the possibilities, what we think could have really happened, that sort of thing. Like they did a whole thing on DB Cooper.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they did Black-Eyed Kids. They've done all sorts of that stuff. The only thing is that they can be a little bit dry sometimes, and they'll put you to sleep.
That's not going to happen with Ghoulish, I'll tell you that.
All right. No, definitely not.
I mean, you might just shut it off, but you're not going to go to sleep.
Party, man.
I mean, we'll do a separate episode dedicated only to Lemon Party if you want.
No, it's okay.
Okay, that's okay. Thinking about Black-Eyed Kids, this is only semi-related, but recently I was reminded of something that happened to me as a kid, and it's not creepy at all, but one thing my friend and I, the friend that I would go to rotten.com with a lot, we would sometimes go to like Walgreens and sit on the bench in front of the building and like drink like Jones soda and just like fuck around. And one time I got back home and my mom was waiting on me and she was pissed because evidently a friend had called my mom and said, hey, your son is panhandling in front of Walgreens asking strangers for money. And I got grounded and she was so fucking mad. But I wasn't, we weren't doing that at all. It was a setup. We will set up. We will fucking framed. And for the longest time, she wouldn't tell me who was this that snitched. But it was yesterday, actually. I called up my mom and I said, hey, remember when I was a child and you grounded me because someone said I was begging for money? Well, I haven't forgotten about that. Now tell me who did it. And she told me, and I did not know who she was talking about. Anticlimactic.
Wow.
Yeah. So I could have been a black-eyed child.
Your doppelganger.
Yeah.
Wow. Old Panhandler Max.
You ever beg strangers for money in front of Walgreens, Todd?
No, I haven't. A kid at Walmart asked me for a quarter once while I was playing Mortal Kombat 2, and I told him no.
Shit. Is he okay? Dude,
He looked
that was goatsy.
he looked so sad too. Go
um
ask your mother.
Now we obviously can't end this episode without talking about the Bud Wild suicide video
Yes.
and scan lines. So I think possibly the best way to set this up is to walk us through how you encountered that video and how it affected you, which led into the book that we were promoting.
All right. So for the Nightworms readers out there, you already know the story. But basically how it happens in the book scan lines is pretty close to how it happened in real life. I was at my friend Danny's one night. I think I was crashing there for the night on a weekend, and it was me, Danny, and his younger brother Jordan. Thought we were gonna download a video of Jenna Jameson because she was like, you know, the hottest porn star out there. And I mean, we're all like 14, 15 years old. Hormones are raging. So obviously we're trying to look at something that was considered risque at the time, and, and boobs. So I should also mention that we all grew up in a small Kentucky town, and there was really nothing else to do on a weekend evening. So
I feel like
uh,
any kid that age in that like decade, that's what they were all doing,
yeah,
regardless of location. Yeah.
and if the book goes viral, Max, maybe we can like get Jenna Jameson to read it or something. I don't know.
I'll try.
I mean, you can.
If anyone's listening, I don't know. If you know Jenna Jameson, reach
Yeah, I don't
out.
know.
We'll see.
But basically, the way you downloaded videos back then was a chat client called MIRC, the Internet Relay Chat. And you'd log in, you'd go to a site, you'd go to a channel, not too dissimilar from Discord, essentially. Yeah. And there were commands, there were bots that were set up. You type in the command for what you wanted, and it would queue it up and initiate a peer-to-peer connection to download it. And this is in the days of dial-up internet. So Danny had the fastest connection of all my friends because he begged his parents to put in a dedicated phone line so he could just have the internet 24/7. He had a 56K modem, which was the fastest dial-up modem you could use those days. And it took hours to download something. And so we're staying up really late at night, and it finishes, we're all bleary-eyed, tired, but hey, Jenna Jameson's boobs are on the horizon. So they open the video, and it is the Bud Dwyer, what we came to discover was the Bud Dwyer suicide video.
Yeah.
And here we are at like 3:30 in the morning, staring at a video of a man shooting himself in the head. And when you're not it's kind of like when you go to drink something thinking it's going to be sweet, and then it's not, and it just tastes foul almost in your mouth. It was kind of like that. It was disturbing. We just kind of sat there, and of course the fucking video player was on loop. So as soon as it was done, it just looped over and started over.
How much of the video was it the whole like the press release that he gave before the suicide?
No, it was him talking. He has the paper bag, and he pulls out the gun. He's holding up his hand, and he's like telling people, this may be shocking to some people. And then he puts the gun in his mouth and blows his brains out. And what stuck with me most is how the goddamn cameraman zooms in on the poor guy's face,
Yeah.
and you just see just blood just gushing out of the man's nose. And you don't really think about the human body producing that much blood, you know? I mean, why would you? The worst you've ever experienced is probably a cut. But I mean, it's just gouts and gouts of blood. I mean, it it was horrifying, really.
Yeah.
And that is something that has stayed with me my whole life. Uh, Horror movies didn't really bother me that much after that.
How could it?
Yeah.
Have you done much? I mean, the book deals with a fictional cameraman. I don't know if his name was actually Duncan in real life. Was it?
That's I made that up.
Okay,
I
I thought so.
Yeah.
Um, but like, has the cameraman like done any interviews? Because it is kind of fucked up that he zoomed in like that.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
To be fair, Max, it didn't even occur to me to research that.
Neither did it to me until right now.
Yeah. Like I kind of rolled with when the cameraman angle came up in the story. I just rolled with it because I had to explain how something like that gets out, how it becomes an urban legend, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I've never forgotten, never will forget. And what's funny is that like when I started writing the story, I really thought I was just going to write a coming of age story about the friends I had growing up.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I still did, but
Yeah.
it has this really fucked up angle to it, which probably says a lot about me. I'm not ready to confront yet.
I mean, I've always described it as the bleakest coming of age book you've ever read, and I can't think of a better way to disclaim potential readers that
and
it's fucked up.
I have to say, for the listeners, please do not look that up. Like I'm not kidding. It is probably the most disturbing thing you would ever see in your life. It will mess you up. And I don't want you to do that. I wrote reading the story is completely different than actually viewing the source matter, and
Yeah.
you don't want to do that. And I mention that again because remember when people were looking it up when the pre-order first went live,
Yes.
and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
I think someone posted on Instagram like, well, I just read Scanlines and then I looked up. It's a real video. Now I'm traumatized.
My favorite though is the guy who read it to his partner for date night. Oh wow.
I can't think of a more romantic thing to do, man. Yeah.
I remember when I finished the first draft and I gave it to my wife Erica to read it. I did not expect her to like it. And when she was finished, she was very solemn, and because it packs a punch emotionally.
Yeah.
And when she finished it, she gave me the manuscript back and said, I liked it. I don't like that I liked it.
I've seen that review so many times. A little like almost build by build what you just said. Like I didn't enjoy this, but I also enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like when you, I mean, I know you wrote this to explore like your childhood and like how you grew up with your friends, but like, do you have any thoughts about what you like hope readers take from something like this? Because it's a really deep spiral into just a negative emotion.
Yeah, and the thing is, I touched on this in the afterword that I wrote for it. When I started writing it, I was coming to terms with a lot of my own, mental health issues. I had been on medical leave from my job for about 2.5 months. I was seeing a therapist for the first time. I had a psychiatrist. And, I was discovering that a lot of the issues that I've always had in my entire life were related to anxiety and depression. And so my therapist had encouraged me to explore that in my writing to try and, work through it. And that's something I've always done. I don't know a single writer who doesn't do that in some capacity. So, uh, I was in a not quite as dark a place as I had been before therapy, but armed with the, you know, perspective that I had, I went into it and started just looking at my life as objectively as I could. And the topic of depression and the topic of suicide were on my mind, not because I was considering suicide, but because of how easily you can slip into it from a depressive state. And it's incredibly easy. And that terrifies me. So, you know, the character of Benjamin Hardy, my stand-in for Bud Dwyer, kind of becomes this personified. He's the personification of depression, and he's always there. He's always watching you. He's always following you, and he doesn't actually do anything to you. You're doing it to yourself. Um, so my hope, and I framed it as a horror story, as a coming of age horror story with some incredibly dark topics. But my hope is that it allows people to confront their own issues that they might be having. Like, it's okay to talk about depression. It's okay to examine these things about yourself. And, the sooner you realize that you need help, the sooner you can get it. Because for me, I was, God, 30, 35, 36, and only just realizing that, hey, I need to see a therapist. And these are, to deal with issues that I've been living with my whole life and never really understood why I was the way I was. Uh, and that, why am I so weird compared to everybody else? And why do I feel this way? Why do I just have so much self-loathing for myself? And why do I feel stuck? You know, why do I feel so tired all the time? That sort of thing. And my hope is that, when I came out of therapy and was in a much better place and, got acclimated to my medications and everything, my hope was to try and tear down that stigma that had really prevented me from going to see a professional, because that stigma was precisely, ingrained in me. When I was growing up, you didn't go see a shrink because, you might be crazy or loony or anything like that. And, again, I'm coming from a Southern, you know, childhood, growing up in the South, a bit more conservative, way more conservative, I should say.
I think even like movies also gave that impression as well. Because how many like old movies in the 90s, 80s, 2000s even had the cliche, "Oh, yeah, she's on meds. Don't trust anything she says."
Yeah,
It
yeah,
happened in TV as well. I mean, it was only recently I think have has like movies and TV come around on that awful stereotype.
yeah. Especially in the last year and a half since
Hmm.
the pandemic started, there has been a way more openness about struggles with mental health. Um, not just depression, anxiety, ADHD.
Yeah.
That's, my wife recently was diagnosed with that. She's about to turn 40, 41. And,
Yeah.
it puts so much in perspective. And I just, I wanted to try and do whatever small part I have in the grand scheme of things. I wanted to try and help destigmatize talking about that stuff. And that's again why I wanted to put that trigger warning there at the beginning. Suicide, prevention hotline. That number is there. Uh, I don't want people to think I'm making light of the topic. Just because I wrote a horror story about it. To me, that was me working through my own demons.
Yeah.
Um, again, my hope is that people take away, even though it's going to make them feel horrible, by the time they close the book. My hope is that it'll at least like normalizes to them talking more about whatever might be bothering them.
I think it helps in any fiction to like experience a killer who has things going on that makes the reader not feel so alone. Like, oh shit, yeah, I can relate to this.
Yeah.
I've never talked about this with anybody, but now I'm kind of talking about it through the process of reading this book. And that begins the whole conversation. So I think you definitely nailed that, while also simultaneously providing an entertaining piece of fiction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have no possible idea how we can go from anything else after what we just talked about. So I think this is probably the end of the episode, unless you have anything else you wanted to bring up. Like I can't go back to glass ass now.
Yeah, it's definitely no going back to glass ass or lemon party.
Yeah, I will say the way you did like find that video, we would as a family we would always download like movies on a LimeWire and then watch them, and we didn't get that type of video, but often we had this thing that it was a recurring, almost a comedy bit at a certain point, but we would be watching a movie we downloaded, and then suddenly it would become pornography, and my mom would go, "Oh, nope, it's porn, turn it off." It happened so many times, but we never like learned the lesson, because often they would have like half the movie play and then suddenly it would cut to just hardcore pornography.
That was Tyler Durden at work.
Exactly. I can get into how I saw the video if you want.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about this also in the introduction to the book, but mine was again my mom. She let me rent a movie from Hollywood Video called Traces of Death, which was a knockoff of Faces of Death. Unlike Faces of Death, which was mostly, for the most part, fake videos, they were staged, but Traces of Death took that concept and said, what if this was all real, and what if I was just a piece of shit? And they made Traces of Death, and I think it ended with the Bud Dwyer video, and I was, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 11, around that age, and it was not great. I watched that alone in my bedroom like at midnight, not understanding quite why I thought this would be a good idea to even rent. My brother had always talked about Faces of Death as being like this ultimate thing to track down one day, and then I just saw Traces of Death, which I mistook to be Faces of Death, just like in Hollywood Video on the main wall. Like, why were they allowing that to be rented?
Yeah. Something like that usually you'd think would be relegated to the back room that's, separated by a curtain with a sign that says 18 and over.
Yeah.
But Hollywood Video being a corporate entity, you wouldn't really see stuff like that. So yeah, man, the 90s were fucking weird.
Yeah, that's a good note to end on, I think.
That's the title of your episode. The 90s were fucking weird.
Scanlines is out today. Well, not the day we're talking, but the day this episode goes live.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Please
out.
go buy it.
Go buy it at all the places I'll tell you in the intro and the outro. Any final thoughts about Scanlines?
So for the listeners who might be on the fence. If you can look past the gruesome beginning, I think you will find a heartfelt story about growing up, but one that is also not afraid to look at, the issues of mental health. So, and if you do pick it up, thank you. I appreciate you reading my work.
Excellent. Now, for the final moments of this episode, what do you say? You want to Google Blue Waffle?
Nope, not happening. Sorry.
Okay, that's the end.
Now, I will say, though, if you
Yeah.
wanted to do like a fundraiser drive or something to go to charity,
keep talking.
Raise $10,000 for charity, or to go to suicide prevention or whatever. I'll Google Blue Waffle.
What about 100? I can't raise 10,000.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
1,000.
$1,000? I think
Raise
we could get this to
$1,000.
happen. Okay, you heard that from Todd himself. He will look at Blue Waffle.
We can broadcast my reaction.
Okay. You will going to regret this.
I am, but hey, $1,000 towards suicide prevention and awareness. I'm good with that. It's worthwhile.
All right, excellent. How can folks find you online?
I am all over the place.
Shit.
I'm outside your house right now.
Oh my God, you a black-eyed kid?
No, my website is www.toddkeisling.com. That's KEISLING. I'm on Twitter at Todd_Keisling. That's usually where I'm most active on social media. Instagram, I'm at Todd Keisling, all one word. And I'm also on Patreon, patreon.com/Todd Keisling.
And you can find this podcast at lemonpelty.org. And that was Todd Keisling talking about the spooky internet. Go buy Scanlines, out right now, perpetualpublishing.com. Go pick it up. Any place you buy books, Scanlines by Todd Keisling. Rate and review us on iTunes. The podcast is called Ghoulish. patreon.com/PMM Publishing. That's all I have to say. Goodbye.
Live spooky, die spooky.